It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Go! Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
Good morning. Welcome to the Garden Guide. I'm Will Feelwright, along with Mark Anderson of Anderson Seed and Garden, who's joining us in the KVNU studios on this Saturday as we're talking all things lawn, garden, bugs, and probably even a few rodents that we're going to be talking
rodents
about.
And weeds.
Yeah.
I don't know which is worse, the rodents or the weeds.
Yeah, either one of them. And, of course, mosquitoes, grasshoppers, everything in between. A lot to talk about as we are in the midst of, right in the middle of summer and
middle of harvest season,
hot
too.
temperatures. And, yeah.
It's been nice. I've been going out in the garden and grabbed a few cucumbers. Zucchinis are starting up. Beans are ready to be picked. Tomatoes are starting to ripen up. So I think it was the 20th of July I picked my first fully ripe Lemon Boy tomato. So we had some cherry tomatoes that were coming on, but they always come on a little bit earlier. So this is like the first full size tomato Lemon Boy, and that's not bad. 20th of July,
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Meanwhile, it's kind of interesting because we've been talking about fruit trees and how, the early frost that we had earlier this year really decimated much of the fruit crop. But wow, my fruit trees have leafed out to the point where they almost look like a shrub.
And they look really good.
They look so good.
Good growth. I mean, we've had some hot temperatures, but we've had some moisture, and it's been a great growing season so far. So no complaints. Would have been nice if we hadn't lost all of our fruit.
True.
So that's okay. But I do have a couple apple trees that have apples coming on right now, so we might be making apple pie here next week.
You blossoms that actually made it through.
Actually made it. So I got some fruit on there, but
okay.
Harvesting out of the garden, we're talking to gardeners that are starting to harvest their garlic. I've had a few people come in and say their onions are kind of starting to die down, which is a little bit early, but maybe we can talk about onions during the show as well too.
Okay.
And it's just a great time to be out in the garden. My corn's all tasseling right now, so we're gonna have corn pretty soon too, and the potatoes look amazing. They look absolutely amazing. So I'm excited about the potatoes, and just picked some beets the other day as well too. So garden's going crazy.
All right. Well, before we get into some of the gardening questions that have come up this week, we need to talk about what's going on this weekend at Anderson Seed and Garden.
I hope everybody had a happy 24th.
Yeah. Great
celebrations. Lots of fun things going on throughout the valley. And today we get to take a deep breath, recover, and recuperate. At Anderson's, we've got our cash sale going on. So right now, 15% off all of our trees, shrubs, flowering trees, fruit trees, evergreens, vines. They're all 15% off. But if you pay with cash, you get an extra 25% off. So we've started our cash sale just a little bit early this year and try and take advantage of that great sale that's going on. And we're talking, you pay cash, you get 25% off on all of that remaining nursery stock that we have right now. Roses are included as well, too. So we've got roses.
Okay.
Yeah, so roses are on sale as well, too. So cash sales going on right now. Great time to come in. We just got another shipment of beautiful perennials in. So the perennials look great, looking ready to be planted. Lots of color, lots of great looking plants that just arrived as well, too. So at Anderson's, come in, check out the cash sale. The gardeners market's going on today as well, too. So get downtown and take advantage of that. And, hopefully we can have a great weekend, get out there and do a little bit of planting. And I know a lot of gardeners are starting to do their fall crops as well, too. So we could talk about what you can plant end of July, first part of August that will be coming on in September and October when the temperatures are a little bit cooler. And it's actually a really good time to start thinking about that as well, too. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So take advantage of the cash sale going on this weekend, Anderson Seed and Garden. Get downtown and then get back out into the yard because for many of us, we kind of took it easy yesterday, and now we probably need to tackle a few more garden and lawn issues. And so a lot we can talk about. Where do you want to start, Mark?
There's so many things happening right now. Like I said, in my own garden, we're harvesting beans and zucchini and cucumbers and tomatoes, but I am seeing a lot of people coming in with a couple disease issues and a couple like bug issues that we probably really should address. Squash bugs are crazy right now.
Yes.
We just did a post earlier this week on squash beetles because they were all over my pumpkin plants, and so difficult to get under control. You can see their bright orange eggs. They're usually on the top or the undersides of the leaves. The stink bug and the squash bugs look kind of like elongated stink bugs, so they're kind of darker brown. They've got a little diamond pattern on the back, and they're the young that actually do most of the damage. And when those new, nymph squash bugs hatch out, they're kind of gray. They're gray in color, so that's kind of a light. I would say it looks kind of like a felt gray.
And they all kind of congregate
cluster together
into a little, almost like a mosh pit of destruction.
Yep. And they are hard to control, so very difficult insect to get under control. In fact, I sprayed the other day and went back the next day, and there were still some that were lingering around. But then it took 2 days to really get them under control. So I went back the next day, and it looked like they were all gone. So that was good. But squash bugs, very difficult to control. We usually recommend physically removing them and also crushing the eggs if you see the eggs. So I'll just take a pair of gloves and I'll go out there and I'll catch as many as I can and just kind of squish them, and then squish the eggs so that they don't hatch, because you're going to have like literally hundreds of them popping up all at once. Very few insecticides work on them. The repellent we've found to be very, very effective to just drive them away, make them go somewhere else. So I put my repellent out to keep them from coming back, and then sprayed with the new Bug Blaster Lambda. That's very, very effective on the squash bugs, and so is the 7. Yeah. So those two are really good. High yield indoor-outdoor is really good too. That's a permethrin product. So between the permethrin and the Lambda and the 7, those are probably your best options for getting the squash bugs under control, as well as physically removing them and squishing them, because they will kill your plants overnight.
And yeah. I mean, one day your plants are looking beautiful. The next day you go out and decimate it.
Yep. And that's what happened with one of my pumpkin plants. So I had multiple vines coming up in one location, and I went out there and one vine was just like laying on the ground, and I'm like, why is one vine doing that? And the rest look great, and then I started inspecting. It's like, oh, there's the squash bugs. And so they had actually killed one of the vines before I recognized that they were doing damage. So all it takes is just a couple days with the squash bugs out there. And like I said, the nymph form of the squash bugs do more damage than the adults do. Yeah, so you want to get those under control as quickly as you see them. So repellent, so the grasshopper goes great. And then I would highly recommend either the Bug Blaster Lambda, the 7, or the high yield indoor-outdoor permethrin formula to get those squash bugs under control. And it's not just squash bugs. We're seeing cucumber beetles. We're seeing aphids. Not seeing too many grasshoppers. I mean, we're seeing grasshoppers, but not like we did a couple of years ago. Okay. And so they haven't been too bad. But starting to see a lot of caterpillars. So we're seeing a lot of moths coming in, laying their eggs on plants, especially cabbage loopers, broccoli loopers. They're nibbling on all those plants, and they have voracious appetites. So you definitely want to get them under control as quickly as possible. And those repellents really do a great job. And
I learned from hard experience again today, and then I'll share my mistakes, because if somebody else can learn from them, when you're spraying for insects, make sure you clean out that sprayer so that you don't get remnants of what you sprayed before. I went out this weekend and grabbed the 7 because I wanted to tackle the squash bugs, and had forgotten that the last time I sprayed was for some clover in my yard, and had some 2,4-D weed killer in there.
Broadleaf weed killer.
And did not even realize. And, I washed it out a little bit, but there was still just a little remnants on there. Sure enough, sprayed the 7 up and down our squash plants. Next day, laying down.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, now luckily I was able to salvage them.
Yeah.
I could treat it. I gave it a quick boost of some fertilizer, some watering, and they perked right back up.
Tiny bit of cross
But
contamination.
just a little bit.
Sometimes you can even clean your sprayer out, and then you forgot to like rinse clean water through the sprayer itself, and there's just a little teeny bit left inside the sprayer that just kind of gets mixed in with the new product. So very important that you rinse those sprayers out. And we have kind of a protocol at Anderson's that we try and teach people is it's rinse your sprayers and run clean water through the sprayer 3 times. Every time you use a product. That way it'll clean all the pesticide out. Any residue is going to be gone, and it'll actually make your washers and O-rings and connections in the sprayer last longer as well too.
Because you don't get any of those remnants to get it crusty.
Yep. So it can like build up in there, and since it's a petroleum-based product, it will break your O-rings and stuff down. Then all of a sudden you go to use it the next year and it doesn't work.
And you got leaks and stuff.
Yeah, but then it cleans all that residue out. So the next time you go to use the sprayer, you're making sure that there's no contamination in there at all. And so we actually do have a sprayer cleaner product. So like if you have neglected to do that for a while and you want to make sure your sprayer's clean, there's products out there that are made to neutralize any pesticides that may have built up in there over time, and you just rinse your sprayer out with that and then run it through the sprayer as well too, and it will neutralize everything that's in there. So the next time you use it, you're like good to go. But that triple rinse is really kind of important, especially for fall when you're getting ready to clean up and put your sprayers and stuff away. You don't want anything sitting in there through the winter time because it will start to break down some of those parts, and then you go to use it the next spring and it doesn't work,
and it's broken,
and it doesn't work. So
three rinses kill your plants.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I almost did.
Yeah, 3 rinses or a spray tank neutralizer.
Okay.
And that will do a really, really great job. And like I said, lots of bugs out there, but the diseases, we're actually seeing more diseases right now. Powdery mildew on squashes, melons, cucumbers, really seeing a lot of that. And then this week I've seen samples of blossom end rot on tomatoes, which isn't really a disease. It's more of a nutrient deficiency, but we've also seen bacterial speck and black spot on tomatoes as well too. So we're starting to see some fungal diseases showing up. So to prevent those, probably my go-to fungicides, disease control is going to be fungicide 5 from Fertilome. Since it's a biofungicide, it's really, really safe to use right up to the minute of harvest. You can use that product and then just rinse your plants off and or your fruit or whatever you've harvested, and it'll be just fine if you want to harvest and use that product. So the fungicide 5, great for powdery mildew, great for leaf spots. It will work on that bacterial speck on the tomatoes. We're really seeing a lot of diseases spread. In fact, somebody brought pictures in. I think it was Monday, and she had this orange discoloration in her lawn, and she's like, "I got this orange stuff in my lawn." And I asked her, "It's like, when you walk through it, did it make your shoes turn orange too?" And she's like, "Yeah. How'd you know that?" And it's like, there's a disease called rust, and it looks like rust, like on metal, but it gets into your turf. And she had just sections that had just turned orange. And it rubs off on your shoes. And so we treated that with some f-stop and got that under control for her. But we're seeing lots of mildews, lots of leaf spots, rust in turf. We're seeing necrotic ring spot. In fact, I went to 3 people's homes this week and tried to help them diagnose what's going on with their lawn. Necrotic ring spot is a difficult disease to get under control, and there's really not many ways to stop it completely, other than putting new grass out there and using a variety of grass that's resistant to it. So, and
oftentimes the ring spot will look just like a kind of almost a purplish colored ring that's about usually a foot or so in diameter.
And they can get bigger as well too, and it'll kill the grass in these kind of irregular ring type patterns. Yeah. And so very difficult to get under control. We have some disease controls like Disease X from Scott's is actually a really pretty good product, but it won't stop it completely. The best way to do that is to incorporate some turf type ryegrasses into your existing grass and let it kind of take over some of those spots, because the necrotic ring spot doesn't bother turf type rye, and so it's unaffected by it. But for that bacterial speck on the tomatoes, and for the powdery mildew and for a lot of leaf spots and the rusts, that fungicide 5 will do great. We've got copper soap. So copper soap, any of the copper fungicides will really do a great job as well too. And those both are safe to use right up to the day of harvest on your plants. So that's really not a problem. And also they're very effective. They really do a great job. And even with the fungicide 5, just a small bottle will end up making like 96 gallons. So it really goes a long way. You don't have to use very much of the product to get results with it. So that's kind of my go-to for my vegetable garden.
When you start seeing diseases. Now, for people to help them recognize those diseases when they start coming into their garden, powdery mildew I always kind of think is an easy one because it just looks like a dust, white chalk like dust,
chalk
on
or
your
flour.
leaves.
It looks like somebody like sprayed flour on your plants, and it's a bright white, and it rubs off fairly easily. We're seeing that on a lot of maples right now as well too. So maple trees are showing a lot of susceptibility to powdery mildew right now. And for larger trees, probably your best bet's going to be fungicide, not the fungicide 5, but the f-stop. Since the f-stop is systemic, if you have a 35-foot tree, it's really hard to hit the top of the tree. And so you spray as much of the tree as you can reach, and then it's absorbed in through the leaves, runs through the circulatory system of the tree, kind of protects the whole tree. But powdery mildew, fairly easy to identify since it has that kind of white powdery look to it. With the tomatoes and the bacterial speck, they look like black spots on the fruit of the tomato, but it's not on the bottom. It's up on the shoulders of the fruit, sometimes on the sides of the fruit. And it usually shows up right as they're starting to ripen up. And so it makes the fruit so it's not edible. It really kind of damages the fruit. So you want to try and prevent that as much as possible. So we use that fungicide 5 almost every other week throughout the summertime to try and prevent some of these diseases from showing up on the tomato plants. So
even before it shows up. Just treat it in case.
It's just easier to prevent than it is to try and fix it after the fact. And so that's quite easy to control if you get it early, but it's hard to get rid of once it's attacked your plants, and basically have to pick off the fruit that's been damaged already, just get rid of it, and then treat the plants, and hopefully the new fruit will be unaffected as you do that. So seeing a lot of diseases, a lot of bugs, and we have a lot of customers bringing samples in. So if you're listening and you've got some things you're not quite sure about, just bring some samples in. That's the easiest way for us to identify what's going on with your plants. Pictures are good, but sometimes it's hard to see the whole picture.
Picture as to what's going on for sure.
The whole picture, with just a photo on a phone. Especially when it comes to diagnosing turf, it's really hard to do. Hard to do.
All right, jumping back to insects, because you mentioned, and our corn hasn't quite tasseled yet. We're probably within the next week or so it will. And with some whose corn has already tasseled, it's probably a good time to start considering insects, particularly moths.
Yeah, nobody likes corn earworms in their corn, and they really won't show up in your corn until the ears are starting to form. And what they do is they come in the evening and they will lay their eggs on the silks on the ears of the corn. And then as those larvae hatch out, they'll follow the silks right down into the corn, and then they'll start eating the corn on the inside. And so it's a corn earworm is what it's called, and we see it quite frequently, and I'll bet we'll see a bunch of them this year. And the best way to prevent that is basically with a bacteria that kills caterpillars. So you could use spinosad, you could use BT, you could definitely use 7 or the Bug Blaster Lambda. Those would be great as well too. But I really like the spinosad because it works on contact as well as by ingestion, and it's safe to use on the corn, again, right up to the day of harvest. It's a bacteria, kills these caterpillars that are trying to eat your corn before they get into the corn. And all you have to do is treat the silks on the ears. That's it. You don't have to spray the whole plant, just right on the silks, because the moths will come in, lay their eggs right on the silks.
Okay.
So that's the best way to do it, and it's much easier than trying to treat the entire corn patch. Much easier.
All right. So good thing also to watch out for when it comes to weeds and kind of conclude that with diseases.
Yeah.
As far as other garden issues that people are seeing right now, I know watering, we talked about that a week ago. Should we, with temperatures as they have been, may need to increase your watering just a little bit.
Right.
But not too much.
No, and if you're watering too much, that can compound problems. And earlier in the show, we mentioned blossom end rot. I definitely want to circle back and talk about that. But that can be compounded, like it can be more problematic when you're overwatering. And if their plants are getting too much water, it's hard for them to pick up the nutrients that they need because the volume of water and the moisture in the soil kind of dilutes all that down. So it makes it harder for the plants to get it. And so with blossom end rot on the tomatoes, and this is when you have a tomato that's green or starting to ripen and it has a brown sunken spot on the bottom of the fruit right where the blossom was, that's blossom end rot. And it's caused by a calcium deficiency in the plant. So our soils are pretty high in calcium because we have so much limestone around. There's really a lot of calcium, but it's not very available for the plant to use. So it's really hard for the plant to pick that up, run it through the root system into the plant, and then push it all the way out to the ends of the fruit. And so the calcium gets into the plant, gets into the fruit, but it just doesn't get quite far enough to correct that calcium deficiency. And so it shows up as a brown spot on the bottom of the fruit. And so we have to use a type of calcium that's going to be quickly or more readily available to the plants. So we'll use like calcium chloride as a liquid form. You can use calcium nitrate as a liquid or as a granule form. So the calcium nitrate and the calcium chloride are very quick. They move through the plants really fast. And so it's a very easy way to correct a calcium deficiency. And lack of calcium affects your fruit production. It affects the skin of the fruits as well too. So having enough calcium in the plants is kind of important. So we'll use a supplementary liquid application. We'll use like CalMag, or we'll use Yield Booster from Fertilome. That's great because it's got lots of calcium chloride in there. And then there's a couple different fertilizers that we really like, especially the tomato food from Seedlingers. It's got calcium nitrate in it. So a really nice dose of calcium to really help correct that problem for your plants. And you can use it foliar, so you can put it right on the leaves. You can put it on the ground around the plant, or mix it up in water, or water the plants with it. So you've got multiple options to try and get this calcium into the plants. A lot of the giant pumpkin growers, they will really boost their plants with calcium because it keeps their fruit from splitting. Oh. So when it gets really hot, and the pumpkins are growing super fast, sometimes the skin isn't elastic enough, and then you'll get a split. Yeah, you get a split. And when you have a giant pumpkin that's 2,000 pounds and it splits, then you cry because you can't take it to go get weighed because it's no longer valid. Yeah. And so they really work hard to keep them from splitting. And so the calcium is really helpful for that. It will help with your tomatoes so you don't get the splits on the shoulders because it keeps the skin more elastic. You won't have the blossom end rot. You will get more fruit set. And there's some really good reasons for using a good form of calcium on your fruit-producing plants.
All right. Yeah. Now, when it comes to treating for diseases and treating for insects and even fertilizing right now, when temperatures are in the mid-90s or so, like we're seeing right now, it's probably a good practice to make sure that you water that in. You don't want to just have that sitting out because especially fertilizers at the temperatures that we're seeing right now can oftentimes do a lot of damage.
Can burn, absolutely.
So don't just spread it out, but make sure you water it into the plant.
Since my corn is starting to tassel right now, it's time to hit it with another dose of fertilizer. So I'm gonna do straight nitrogen fertilizer, and then I'm gonna water it right afterwards. And you're absolutely right. It's like I'm gonna apply that granulated nitrogen. I'm gonna put it on the ground, just down the rows of the corn. And then I'll turn my soaker hoses on after that and make sure and get that to dissolve, get down into the soil so the corn can pick it up and use it. Because as the corn is maturing and progressing, it needs that nitrogen to get big ears and more ears. So I'm looking at my corn and my mouth's drooling because I can hardly wait for the corn to come on. But you got to fertilize correctly. And if I'm fertilizing my tomatoes or my squashes or my pumpkins or my cucumbers or even my melons, I'm trying to do that in the evening when it's not so hot. I'm using a liquid fertilizer that's a little milder, or if you're doing a granule, make sure you apply that and get it watered in afterwards so you don't have problems with it burning your plants, because that can definitely be a bit of an issue.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we've got just about a minute left, and we'll be back right after the news, and we've got a lot more we can talk about, plus also a lot happening in downtown Logan as the cash sale going on right now.
Cash sales happening, 15% off all of our trees, shrubs, flowering trees, fruit trees, evergreens, roses, vines. And if you pay with cash, you get an extra 10%. So it's 25% off if you pay with cash. That's not a check. That's not a debit card. That's like the real green cash currency deal. Yeah, the printed paper. So that's what we're looking for. 25% off gives you that extra 10% discount. It's worth bringing a little bit of cash down to Anderson's right now. I got a lot of great trees and shrubs. The nursery looks really good right now. It's still overflowing out into the parking lot.
And you mentioned, too, roses included in that.
Roses are included in that as well, too. I got some great-looking roses out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So a lot to talk about still, and just stay with us as we'll cover the news here at the bottom of the hour, and then be right back as it's the Garden Guide here on KVNU. With a look at this hour's top stories, I'm Will Feelright. Well, a 34-year-old man is being held in the Cache County Jail without bail following a reckless highway pursuit and a multi-agency warehouse manhunt, according to the Cache County Sheriff's Office. Miu Samau was arrested on Tuesday after deputies spotted a Nissan Altima driving recklessly along Highway 8991. Now, Samau initially pulled over, but then accelerated away as a deputy approached the vehicle. Now, after tracking the car through Logan, deputies located it abandoned at an apartment complex in North Logan. Now, officers later surrounded a nearby warehouse following reports of a possible armed intruder, where Samau reportedly jumped a fence to escape the perimeter. Now, following an investigation that was held Wednesday, officers verified that Samau was the driver and arrested him. He was booked into the Cache County Jail. Now, Chief Deputy Michael Sean Barchi praised the teamwork between the Sheriff's Office, Logan Police, North Park Police, and the Utah Highway Patrol. In other news, the Salt Lake County District Attorney's Office has declined to file criminal charges against police officers who shot and killed a man during a domestic-related response back in March. Now, an agency review determined that the Salt Lake City Police Department officers had acted within the scope of their official duties during the March 22nd confrontation that happened in Sandy. Now, according to investigators, officers were responding to the area when 45-year-old Isaac Jesse Waters pulled a weapon from his lower leg and charged at them. Now, multiple officers opened fire, striking him several times. Well, we're going to continue to see clear skies and hot temperatures through the Pioneer Day holiday weekend, as high temps staying in right around the mid to high 90s with overnight temperatures into the mid 60s. Will Feelright, KVNU News.
Good morning. This is Chris Lewis. LeBron James chooses to go to Philly, perhaps not as a centerpiece, but hoping to be the final piece to the Sixers' first championship in 43 years. Philly signs LeBron to a 2-year, $8 million deal on Friday. Here's ESPN insider Shams Charania when the news broke on First Take.
He spent the last few weeks talking to Philadelphia, Cleveland, Miami. As we know, those were the teams at the front lines of this because of the simple fact that LeBron James went into this process once he decided to leave the Lakers, that this would be about winning, about competing at a high level, building a culture with a team, having a team that he trusts. And so the Eastern Conference team represented a chance to contend at a high level. This clearly for LeBron James, he looked at the rosters in Philadelphia after the Jaylen Brown trade. Remember, guys, the Sixers were not even in the picture, were not on the map until Bob Myers and Mike Gansey went out there and traded for Jaylen Brown. So you have Tyrese Maxey, you have VJ Edgecombe, you have Jaylen Brown, and Joel Embiid. So LeBron James looked at that roster. He looked at the Cavaliers roster. He looked at the Heat roster, and he is choosing the Philadelphia 76ers for a historic 24th season.
Impressive. Going over to the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, he's clear to participate in camp. How does he feel?
When you talk to guys that have kind of had this injury I have, a lot of times you're stronger. I feel stronger than I've ever felt as far as strength and lifting and stuff like that. And so now it's just about getting that quarterback stuff down, that stuff moving in the pocket quick, making those quick movements, reacting and doing stuff like that. And so I feel like I wasn't playing my best football at the end of last year before I got hurt. And so I got to find ways to get better, kind of navigating the pocket, running the offense better, and getting the ball in my hands and letting other guys make plays. And so I think this injury helped me kind of focus on those little things as I kind of get back to being who I am.
The quarterback returns from his injury in December.
It's the Garden Guide on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
Welcome back to the Garden Guide on this Saturday morning. I'm Will Feelwright. Joining me in the studios, as always, Mark Anderson of Anderson Seed and Garden. And, of course, as we were just mentioning, as we were wrapping up the last segment, great time to get into Anderson Seed and Garden this weekend because the cash sale is going on right now.
We celebrated the 24th yesterday, and now we have a little bit of time on our hands. Great time to come in, take advantage of our cash sale. So at Anderson's, when we start the cash sale, we've got a base sale price, which is 15% off to start off with. And so you can get trees and shrubs, flowering trees, evergreens, vines, roses. They're all on sale for 15% off. But if you pay with cash, we'll give you an extra 10% off. So cash sales going on now, and we'll just keep continuing that until we decide it's time to just get rid of everything. And with the cash sale, you can take advantage of those extra great deals and get that extra 10% off.
All right. When you pay with cash and coin, that's the only deal. It's got to be paper currency or coins.
Exactly. And there is more stuff going on downtown as well, too. So Gardener's Market going today until 1 o'clock. And it's always a lot of fun going over to the Gardener's Market. And that's there at the historic county courthouse. So it's just a block away from us. And you can take advantage of both stops on the way.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, we've been talking about diseases. We were talking about insects in the last segment. I guess we need to also talk about garden predators, I guess we could call them.
They're showing up at my house already.
So, are they?
Yep. So we've heard raccoons probably every night for the last 3 or 4 nights. So I think we have a little batch of raccoons. They haven't started checking the corn yet, but I know that's going to happen.
They're probably watching those tassels.
They're keeping an eye on it because they will come and take advantage of all that corn. They love the corn. And so raccoons are quite a problem. And then we have our resident herd of deer that just like to nibble on everything. We had a big windstorm about a week or 10 days ago, and it blew open the gate to my garden. So it was like shaking the fence enough that it kind of popped it loose and opened the gate. And I could see little deer hoofy prints had gotten in there where the soaker hose had saturated the soil. And there's like these little hoof prints, and it's just like, those guys got in the garden again. Fortunately, they didn't eat my beans. I was afraid they were going to go eat all the beans because that's usually where they go. They only ate one pumpkin that I could see. So they had a snack and then left.
And then
they left. So I got the gate hooked back up. So we're good. But deer are a problem for everybody. Raccoons are problematic as well too. There are some really good ways to repel them and keep them out. Of course, in our garden, we put up an 8-foot fence. So that's like the best thing for deer that I've found to keep the deer out. But you got to make sure that you close the gate.
Yes. 8 feet of fence just doesn't do any good if the gate's open.
Yeah, if the gate's open. Otherwise, we've had really good results with Deer Stopper. So Deer Stopper is a natural repellent. It won't hurt the deer. It won't hurt you, but it smells and tastes funny to the deer. And so when you treat your plants with it, it really does make a big difference, and it gets the deer to go somewhere else and to realize that I don't want to eat these plants because they taste and smell funny.
Nasty.
Yeah, they don't taste good to them. The problem is it makes your vegetables smell and taste funny also. So you can't spray it on like your fruit that you're going to harvest, but you could absolutely spray the tops of the carrots. You could spray the tops of the potatoes.
Okay.
You could spray your corn because
as long as
it's inside.
The ears.
Yeah, it's like, so don't spray the parts that you're going to eat because it will flavor them and it will make them so they don't taste very good. but it's great to use around your garden. It's great to use in your flower beds and in your shrubs and the things that the deer like to nibble on. And so if they're smelling and tasting all these plants that they usually like to eat and they smell and taste funny, then they'll just move along and go somewhere else. So it's a deterrent, not because it's painful to them. It's just it makes things distasteful, so they just don't want to eat it. So the deer stopper really does a great job that way. It lasts for about 4 weeks. It's 28 days. It's how long the deer stopper lasts. So you can do once a month and have pretty good control on deer. Deer stopper, Macenas, they make a raccoon and rodent repellent as well too. And so they have repellents for the raccoons. And so I'm probably going to be doing an application all the way around my corn this year to keep the raccoons from coming in. But I'm also going to set up traps because the raccoons are so difficult to get rid of. Yeah, you basically have to catch them with a live trap because they're so smart.
Do the motion sensor sprinklers
they actually work really well.
Raccoons?
Yeah, so raccoons and deer, we've had very good results with the motion sensitive sprinklers. The only drawback with those sprinklers is you have to leave the water on all the time. So make sure you use a brand new hose, one that's not going to pop a hole in it, so you don't have like water running all over the garden overnight when you had it set up for them. But those sprinklers, they're motion sensitive. So you set them up when they pick up the motion of an animal or a person or a dog, they turn on. And when they turn on, they make noise. There's cold water splashing all over the place. It's actually a really good deterrent for keeping some of these critters away.
Or your neighbors.
Neighbors' dogs. You, if you forget that it's out there, you'll be like running for the hills. But they really do work very, very well.
Okay.
And so we've found them to be super effective on deer, especially. They do work on the raccoons as well too. And it just seems like that quick burst of noise and water and temperature just kind of scares everybody off, and does a really pretty good job.
Okay.
So we've had good results with that. So between the deer stopper and the fencing and netting, some of the netting actually works pretty well. You can just like lay nets over like your strawberries if they're coming in and eat your strawberries. Then the netting really does do a pretty good job to keep the deer out, as long as the fruit's not sticking through the netting.
Yeah, it doesn't exactly help.
Then they'll come and find that.
Now, one other rodent that we saw several years ago, thankfully, I think they were eradicated when they started putting houses in the field behind us, is muskrats.
Oh, yeah.
And we'd never had them. We'd had raccoons, but all of a sudden we had 1 year muskrats coming in.
Yep.
And almost to the point where my wife was like, I want you to just shoot it. I said,
get rid of it.
Dear, we have two problems. One, we're in the city. I can't shoot it. And two, we have a house full of girls. If they see Dad shooting a muskrat, they won't let Dad back in the house.
They're pretty cute.
They are cute.
They're really cute, but
so,
they can do a lot of damage. The animal repellent from Macenas, similar to the deer stopper, but it's called animal stopper. That actually works on a lot of these mid-sized rodents.
Okay.
So muskrats, work on raccoons, and it works on skunks, and a lot of those. So we have had some very good results with those types of products. Again, lasts about 28 days, so you've got to reapply, and it just makes everything smell and taste funny. And so they'll just leave and go somewhere else. Yeah, once they set up shop, it's kind of hard to get them to move along though. So you may have to use a live trap and relocate.
Yeah,
somewhere else.
Especially with our case, because we had some small, tender green bean plants come out.
Oh, yeah.
And muskrats took one bite of those, and it was like ice cream.
Munching on them, yeah.
Yeah.
Delicious.
So just leveled.
I have to admit, my beans are really, really good right now. I was out there this morning just throwing some water on the pumpkins, and I was like, I'm gonna have a couple beans. They look really good. Yeah, so they look pretty amazing right now. So
all right. So a few ways to be able to take care of the predators around your garden: deer, raccoon, muskrats. That deer stopper works phenomenal. The motion activated sprinklers are really good.
Fencing, netting, those are all very, very good deterrents to keep those critters out. And some are deterred more easily than others. Yeah. Raccoons are kind of tough, but
all right.
This is the time of year where there's so much coming out of the garden. I don't mind sharing a little bit with them, but raccoons will get in there and just decimate your entire corn crop, and the deer will get in there and they'll eat all your beans and mess up all your cantaloupes and squashes and stuff. And so I don't like sharing that much, but on top of all those harvests, we've got people saying their garlic's ready to harvest.
Oh,
and their onions are ready to harvest. So now's the time to really start harvesting your garlic. It's usually end of July, 1st of August. The tops of the garlic will kind of start to naturally die down.
Okay.
And you can just dig those up. And what a lot of our growers in Cache Valley will do is they'll just harvest them. They will hang them up sometimes in the garage. You want to put them in a warm, dry location so that those bottoms of the garlics can dry. In some cases, we'll even dig the garlic up and we'll leave them out in the garden for a day or two, kind of on their side, so that the root system is exposed to the sun, and it will dry those roots up, and it will start that drying process, so you can keep them longer throughout the winter.
Now, if you're hanging the garlic up, do you hang the entire plant or just the cloves?
Usually we'll leave the tops on there and let the tops kind of start to dry, to die down. And then you can trim the bulbs off. Once they start to dry, you can just cut those off and trim those, and then keep them in a cool, dry location, and they'll keep longer. And if you're doing hardnecks, they'll usually last 2 to 4 months. So you can get some good duration out of those, sometimes even up to 6 months. But some of the softneck varieties will last even longer, so they'll last 6 to 8, sometimes even up to 10 months. They'll keep for a long time. But now's the time to start harvesting your garlic. We're seeing the same thing. Some of our growers are seeing their onion plants starting to die down as well too. Mine look great. They look really healthy and good. But by the middle to the end of August, if they're not dying down on their own, I will kind of step on the tops just gently and just kind of break the tops a little bit.
So you kind of kill them.
Yeah, get them to stop growing, and then I'll dig them up and do the same thing. I'll turn them upside down so the roots are exposed, and then dry that root system for a day or two, and then gather those all up, leave the tops on them, put them in a warm, dry location, usually in the barn or the shed, where it's dark, but it is warm and dry, so they're not getting any sunlight. And we'll let those cure for a month to 6 weeks or so. Then we'll cut the tops off, put them in an onion sack, hang them up down the basement where it's cool and dry, and then they'll keep for months, depending on the variety.
Okay.
Depending on the variety. So some varieties like Walla Walla, they won't keep very long. So we use those. We'll just use them out of the garden as they come. But Dulce Grande, Candy, Big Daddy, those will last 4 to 6 months, and then really good storage varieties like Patterson or Copra, they'll last 8 to 10 months in storage. So they'll last almost a whole year.
Especially if you can keep them with air circulating around them. I know one of the, I guess it's an old wives' tale fable that my wife and I have done for years is we'd take old pairs of nylons.
Oh, yeah.
And put the onions in them, and then you tie them off so they've got a little bit of separation to them. And hang those up in the storage room, and it just works great.
Keeps
them for months.
I know a lot of people that will do that, and you get that good air circulation, and you can hang them up, and you got these just kind of if you twist them tight enough, apparently you can cut them off and take one out at a time.
Yeah, it works perfect. So
not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. But garlic and onions, it's time to do that. And what we're seeing is peas are gone, and spinach and lettuce are gone, and garlic is getting harvested. Once we harvest all of our beans in the next couple of weeks, we'll have some extra space, that isn't being utilized, and so you can reuse that space. You can plant some other crops that are going to produce in September or October. So now's the time to start planning that out. Start thinking about what you're going to plant, and then in the next 2 or 3 weeks, start planting your fall crops so that those are coming on in September and October when the daytime temperatures are starting to cool down. So we're talking all your spring crops again. So you can do lettuces and spinach and peas and like green onions. You could do green onions, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, kale. All these plants they like cooler temperatures, but right now where the soil's really warm, it's going to germinate really fast. So it's going to come up really quick, and you're going to have plants popping up like crazy planting at this time of year. And then it's going to have all of August to grow, and then they're going to start harvesting in September or even into October. And they can handle those cooler temperatures. In fact, they do better in those cooler temperatures than they do in the hot temperatures. But it is a really good time to plant them so they get established while the temperatures are hot. But then you're harvesting when it's cooler. Yeah. And I promise your Brussels sprouts will taste better. Your cabbage will do amazing. Cauliflower, fall cauliflower is like the most popular time for cauliflower. They sell more cauliflower in the United States in November than any other time. Really? Because everybody's doing it for like Thanksgiving.
Now, I've never tried Brussels sprouts here in Cache Valley. What would be some tips to try it?
Because so I would say start them indoors right now. Okay. So they're ready to transplant out in about 3 weeks, and then do one plant about every 16 to 18 inches, and you treat it just kind of like broccoli. So grow it just like you would broccoli, and you'll get these little teeny tiny round cabbage-looking balls that just grow on the stem, and they're really, really good. You grow them yourself, and you'll never go back. They're really good.
I love Brussels sprouts.
I do too.
Ever since I was a kid, my dad, I don't know what it was, Brussels sprouts was one of his favorite vegetables.
We braise them, and sometimes we'll do it with like a little bit of bacon fat, and that's like really, really good. And
little garlic with
and then just toss them in the oven and just like roast them the rest of the way in there, and they're like perfect. So way good. A little balsamic vinegar. Yummy.
I think I might have to try that because this is the time of year when we start to clear out some space when we move out the onions and some of the other things. And so maybe it's a great time to drop a few fall crops in.
It's the perfect time of year to start planning to do those second crops. So lettuces will work great and spinaches will work great because they aren't maturing when it's hot and going directly to seed. You're starting them when it's hot, but then they'll be maturing when it's cooler, and they will be far superior to the quality that you harvested early summer. They'll be much, much better. But broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, kale, and Brussels sprouts, those will do great as well too. Peas, we've had some really successful pea plantings for fall. They've done really, really well. So those will all work great. Green onions, if you want to do some green onions, you won't get big mature onions, but you'll be able to do you'll be able to do nice green onions as well too. Radishes will work great.
And if you are starting cauliflower or Brussels sprouts by seed indoors, give them about 3 weeks before you move them out?
About 3 weeks, 3 weeks. Beans are a really short season, so if you wanted to do more beans, they're only like 50 to 55 days, and they'll be producing. So you could actually plant beans right now. Zucchinis, 45 days to produce. So if your zucchini starts kind of dying back, which happens sometimes in August, if you plant another plant mid-July, then they'll be coming on in August. And you'll be able to enjoy those all through September with brand new plants as well too. So you can actually recycle and reuse a lot of that soil that you've pulled plants out of already this year. Good time to do it.
Great time to do some fall plants. Well, we've only got about 6 minutes left, Mark, and time has flown by. But before we finish off the show, we've got to talk about weeds because. As I mentioned earlier, I accidentally sprayed my squash plants with a little weed insecticide because I've been trying to kill the weeds earlier this season. And then I went out into my lawn again this week, and some of the clover and morning glory are back.
All right back again.
Yeah.
I know. It's like, how rude is that?
It's like I thought I got rid of you. You weren't invited, and now they're back.
Traditionally, we haven't had many weeds in our turf because our turf is so thick. It just kind of fights all the weeds off. But this year, I've got one section of my lawn that just the morning glory has like come up like crazy in there. I'm not sure if it's come through our irrigation system or if it just, had a couple plants that just dropped a ton of seeds or whatever the deal is. But we've got morning glory like crazy. I've seen lots of burr buttercup and lots of puncture vine that are just problematic because of the burrs and the thorns on those things are so brutal. They're just brutal. And so those are problematic. Seeing lots of purslane all over the place. Everywhere. And then in turf, morning glory, dandelions, clover, just seeing a little bit of everything. So in our vegetable garden, I don't like using herbicides because it can damage your plants. Kind of like what you experienced with spraying your squashes.
Spraying the squashes.
But I have had some really good results with Decimate. And the Decimate, you can be very precise with it. It will only kill what you spray it on. It doesn't spread through the soil. It doesn't bother nearby plants as long as you don't spray it on those. And it will kill morning glory and thistles and all kinds of different weeds. Works great on the puncture vine. Works amazing on the purslane. So I'll very strategically and precisely spray the Decimate in some of those areas where I've got morning glory getting out of control. Okay. But otherwise, I'm out there with a pair of gloves and a hoe.
Yep, pulling them up.
Works great, especially after you've watered. Those weeds come up really easy. So
I love the tip that you shared last week about how you can take a pop bottle.
Oh, yeah.
And put it on the end of your sprayer or whatever you're using. And then that way you get very targeted. You can almost just drop that pop bottle right on top of the plant. Yep. Give it a couple spray applications, and
away we go. So we're talking a 2-liter bottle. I guess you could do a 1-liter bottle too, plastic one, and we'll cut the top off so it kind of creates this cone-shaped shield. And I'll put the sprayer wand right through the hole, and then just tape it on the sprayer, and then you have this shield that will control your spray so it keeps it from spraying out.
Yeah.
And it just is focused right in that one little spot. You just put it right over the morning glory, just go, and it doesn't bother the tomato or the squash or anything. It's like right next to it.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Protects those plants. And very, very effective. It works really, really well. If we're moving into planted areas, areas that you have landscaping in there, but maybe a mulch down, bark. A lot of times people have a weed barrier down with mulch over the top of it. And over time, the weed barrier starts to break down or the bark starts to break down. They have soil on top of it. Then you have a few weeds popping up in there. The Decimate's really good for that too because, again, you can take a piece of cardboard and stick it up underneath your shrubs and just spray right up to the cardboard. And it keeps the spray from drifting over onto other plants. So that works really great. And then I will mix a weed preventer in with it, like the vegetable and ornamental weeder from Monterey. It's got Treflan in it. The Treflan will kill new seeds as they germinate, and then the Decimate kills the plants that are there already. So you can kill what's there and prevent new ones from coming up for 4 to 6 months. I mean, it really saves a lot of time when you've got weed prevention down for 4 to 6 months. And then as we transition into the turf, it's kind of hot for spraying turf right now. Anytime our daytime temperatures are below 90 degrees, you're okay to spray. But if we're above 90, you have a possibility it's going to damage your grass. So we're always very careful to not spray our turf when our daytime temperatures are exceeding 90 degrees. Yeah. You can try and spray in the evening when it's cooler and then maybe water the next morning before it gets hot, and that will kind of help with that. But it's just better to not spray at all. Okay. And so we had some cooler temperatures this week. We were just in the 80s. And I know a lot of homeowners were doing a little bit of weed spraying. But if it's up into the 90s for this next week, just watch out. You don't want to spray when it's that hot. And since we are towards the end of July, we are seeing some crabgrass showing up as well, too. So we've got a crabgrass control made by Fertilome. It's called Weed Out with Crabgrass Control. Great time to use that as well, too. Again, watch your temperatures. We don't want too hot of temperatures, but it'll kill your crabgrass and foxtail and goosegrass, so a lot of weedy grasses, and control dandelions and clover and mallow and thistles as well, too. Okay. So good time to do those.
And if you accidentally make a mistake, because we all do, and you do accidentally get some of that weed killer on your squashes and your plants that you want to keep, best thing to do is wash it off as quickly as possible and then get some fertilizer, even maybe some boomerang would Bigfoot, really something to just kind of help keep those plants going when all of a sudden they get shocked by that.
If you're in the middle of spraying and you realize I just sprayed stuff, quickly go and get some water and rinse it off. That's your best bet. In most cases, it takes 15 to 30 minutes for it to start to absorb that herbicide. It just depends on what herbicide it is. But rinse those babies off, and that will help a lot, but it won't necessarily resolve it 100%.
And as we mentioned earlier, then make sure you clean out that sprayer doing the triple rinse. I'm going to remember that from now on. And so,
but we do have that spray tank cleaner if necessary, because what happens is people mix up stuff, they don't use it all, and they're just like, I'll just leave it in there till the next time, and sometimes that's a couple weeks before you end up using it, and then it's kind of permeated into the tank. Triple rinse doesn't help 100% with that, and so that's when you definitely want to use that tank spray, that spray tank cleaner to try and neutralize it.
All right. Well, just before we go, a reminder, cash sale going on at
this
Anderson.
Weekend and all next week. It is 15% off trees, shrubs, flowering trees, fruit trees, evergreens, vines, and roses, and get an extra 10% off if you pay with cash. So come in, take advantage of the cash sale at Anderson Seed and Garden.
And join us again next week for the Garden Guide here on KVNU. And if you missed a part of the show, you can always go back and enjoy the podcast at the podcast library at kvnutalk.com or at Anderson Seed and Garden's website.
News Talk KVNU. Logan, the voice of Northern Utah. 610 AM and 102.1 FM.